Loud. Here we
Perfect. Am I just going or are you introing, Anna?
Anna
go.
is going to intro. She's going to give it about 2 minutes and we're going to let some other people pop on and then you are rocking and rolling.
I have actually been practicing all morning introducing my friend Eli. I just wanted to be sure I got it right.
Well, I'd just like to go on the record, even though we're already recording, but there are 2 pictures of me on her desk and 0 pictures of you.
Mm.
Anna, show the crowd. Show the crowd.
Okay, let me just take my cam here. Sorry. So I have 2 pictures. Ooh, 2 pictures on my desk, 3 pictures on my desk. One is of one of my children and a hockey outfit. One is of me and Allison on the deck of the boat in Egypt sleeping. That's that one. See, really good. There's us sleeping. We do sleep. And then one of us in Whitefish, Montana. And those are my pictures on my desk. And I asked her yesterday if she thought that was creepy, which she thought no, it was not. So
Well, I guess I need to send some photos.
please do, but I mean, preferably of us together. I mean, it would be a slightly strange, I feel like, if it was just a photo delay, but I'm also down for that. That's good.
Maybe some good
Okay.
Photoshop skills.
Yeah,
So,
so that's my desk. So exciting. Okay. I'm gonna, oh yeah, people are popping on. So I'm going to just say this is my friend Eli. Again, I practiced this all morning. He is a short-term rental owner himself. Also works a lot with investor clients in his market. And so yeah, today really just an opportunity for him to get, I think, down to the basics and then maybe go as deep as some of you need to. It looks like we've got a small group, so like speak up, don't feel like you've got to just be passive here, ask questions, use this time and Eli's brain to your advantage. And yeah, Eli, I can't wait to hear all you have to share.
awesome. Thanks so much, Anna. And yeah, just to kind of reiterate Anna's point, this is like basic 101. Like I'm not getting into design or any of that stuff. Like I'm just like wanting to make sure that you're checking the most basic pillars off in the beginning, because sometimes I feel like people kind of throw everything at you with a short-term rental and then kind of people flounder and then they just never execute. So I'm trying to break it down so that it's the most basic intro to it. So, I need you to give me sharing ability, Anna.
Oh, sure thing. And also, guys, I did just go ahead and pop us on Facebook, so you'll see that. There
Oh
you go,
my God,
Eli.
celebs.
Celebs, dude. Do you have sharing capabilities now, Eli?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you.
Perfect.
Let me find it. Cool. Can you see it? Does it say getting started with short-term
Yep,
rentals?
we gotcha.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So, quick agenda items. We're going to go over where to start, how to run some numbers, local government, short-term rental expert, purchase the property, and extra items to consider. Again, we're going to keep this at a 30,000-foot view, but if you have, I'm going to say, more detailed questions, please ask them along the way. I'm just trying to provide you resources at this point. Quick background on me. I've been a short-term rental host for over 5 years now at this point. I have 3 properties in the Beaufort, South Carolina area. You can see here over 343 reviews with a 4.97 rating, which I'm very proud of. Cool. So where to start? This is something that I feel like a lot of people miss out on is where do you actually have a leg up on the market? So my parents actually moved here to Beaufort, South Carolina about 12 years ago. And I'm from Middle Georgia. I've lived in New York, San Francisco, DC. If you don't mind just muting yourself. Cool. Lived all over and I managed these properties from all over the world and the country. But a big advantage that I had is that my parents were here. So, I've turned this into like a small family business where I'm managing, I say like 85% of it. But as far as like on the ground type of stuff, I will have my mom go back after the cleaners and make sure that, everything looks good because I think a lot of people skip that process and that's when you get bad reviews. Also, I pay my stepdad to go and do the landscaping. But again, this is something that I manage all over the country and the world actually. Secondly, when my parents moved here to Beaufort, my stepdad is actually retired Army, so they wanted to move here for the military benefits. And Beaufort is actually where you do basic training on the East Coast for the Marines. So I knew that there's, graduations happening all the time, and you have families coming into the small town, and hotel rooms can be expensive, and a lot of people are wanting to rent these homes, but they don't have large enough spaces to actually host their family. So I saw that, need, and I ended up, buying my first one with my parents back in 2015. And then since then bought 3. So I guess my question for you guys is, where's somewhere that you can kind of tap into some resources, or maybe something that isn't just visible, on the interwebs. So again, think about that. Where can you leverage people? Because as realtors, that's the biggest thing I think we talk about all the time is leverage at the end of the day. And then secondly, if you maybe don't have as much of a leg up, or maybe you just want to do a little bit deeper of a dive, there's all these different what I call websites or software that you can get all these data points. So 2 that I just listed here are AirDNA and All the Rooms. So this is giving you all short-term rental analytics to help you analyze the market. And you can see here, I mean, these are just some high-level details on how to research. It's giving you smart pricing, how you can calculate your earnings, and then also where you can see a lot of your competition in one place. So for example, here in AirDNA, this is just a screenshot from something I took last night. And there's free versions of this, by the way. So you can get on here and see at a very, very high level, how cities score. So for example, Savannah and Charleston are scoring at a 99. So these are like hot markets that would be great to invest in. And if you actually click on those cities, you can get more details in regards to your competition. It even has like properties that are for sale, like you can type in the address and how would they perform. This is pretty cool stuff that's for free. AirDNA actually just changed it where you used to could just buy like a month membership and then check it out for that 1 month and then cancel it. But when I was looking into it yesterday, you actually have to sign up for an entire year. But again, a home or investment is probably going to be one of the largest purchases that you do in your life. So, it might be worth it to, purchase something for $200 or $300. So you can do a deeper dive on that. Running your numbers here, don't reinvent the wheel. So there's so many other programs out there that have all these like calculators. I mean, I think we've even hosted people in Empower that have their own calculators that they built out, or in the Fast Forward movement. And honestly, like just message them. They're usually trying to sell their services as well. So, just sign up for it. I mean, here's one that I highlighted is the Bigger Pockets. So if you've ever heard of their podcast or anything, this is on their website where you can leverage a lot of their tools. Like, don't reinvent the wheel here. Again, AirDNA has some calculators built into it as well. And I'm not sure how you pronounce this one, but it's called Rabu. But this is another one that I actually found yesterday. But again, run your numbers ahead of time. And then also reach out to people like, me or other people that you see on these Empower or Fast Forward movement webinars, and they're always willing to help. So, the biggest thing is like, don't just try to do it by yourself. Sorry, my cat is screaming to go out the door, so give me 2 seconds. Yeah, there you go.
What do you mean by run your numbers? Like, I think that the hard part is like, I mean, like in your mind, what is your income expectation? Like some people say, as long as it just pays for itself, I'm fine because it's making, it's paying for itself. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point because, what are you trying to do? Are you just trying to cover your mortgage so that you have a vacation spot that you get to go to, a few weeks out of the year? Or are you trying to turn this into, a true business? I know when I originally started, it was for me, I just wanted to at least cover itself. And then I had a home to come back to whenever I visited my parents. But then, I found out it became a very lucrative business. I mean, just an example is like my very first one, a mortgage payment was like $800 and I was making on average in between gross, but $3,500 to $5,500 a month on it. On the flip side of that though, I mean, you got to think about, your utilities costs, you're providing supplies, you need to have honestly, probably, which I'll talk about in a second, like LLC, like umbrella insurance coverage, like you really need to mitigate all of your risks, and think about all the little things that kind of, add up. And then, I mean, on top of it, I mean, you can see right here, like, I know it says like a rehab estimator calculator as well, but what are you going to have to put into the house itself? I mean, some people might consider this a lot, but for all of my 2-bedroom, 1-bath, I feel like I can do it, furnish the whole home for in between $8,000 to $10,000. And that's because I like kind of decently nice things. Like I'm not going to fill it with just all IKEA. And again, that's just me. But you have to kind of think about all of these things. Oh, property management, right? So if you're not doing self-managed, on average, it's about 20% of the booked nightly rate that you're going to be paying out to, a property management group. Also, if you're wanting to do other programs outside, let's say you do Airbnb, but then you do VRBO, and then you do a direct booking website, you have to have a lot of integrations to connect those things. So like a property management software on top of iPay for remote lock, which automatically creates codes that gives to the people, so I don't have to manually do that. I use Price Labs, which does like smart pricing for all of my items as well. So again, there's a lot of things that kind of go into it that maybe you don't realize on the surface. And that's why I think it's so important that you speak to people like myself. I know Allison, you have 2 now, or 3. No, you have 3 now. Kind of talking to them to really see where maybe some of those hidden things that maybe you didn't think about. Sorry, that was a long answer, but thank you. A big one I want to talk about is local regulations and zoning. So it's kind of funny. I actually got an Airbnb message yesterday about someone that they want to interview hosts in the area to possibly manage their properties. But they already have a realtor, and they were looking in areas of downtown. And it really worried me because they're talking about putting an offer on a home, but they don't even know, and maybe the realtor doesn't know about the caps in each city. So, for example, in Beaufort, we have different neighborhoods. I'm going to jump to this one. The right picture where you can see each neighborhood like Higginsville, Pigeon Point, Northwest Quadrant, there's a 6% cap in each neighborhood where you have to get a short-term rental permit for. And the majority of the time, all of these neighborhoods in the downtown area are capped already. So there's been several instances where someone buys a property and then, they've already put down, let's say 20% down on a $400,000 property, so $80,000, and there's no short-term rental permits for them at all. So now they're kind of just sitting here bleeding money, and they didn't have someone to navigate that with them. They were just looking for the sale really quickly. So that's why I think it's so important, to tap into, people that have this experience, and especially a realtor that maybe has short-term rentals themselves, so they can help you navigate this. Now, one other little thing that I always like to, see how you can skirt around the rules is here in Beaufort, even if a neighborhood is capped, if you are zoned, mixed residential and commercial, so we call it T4N, that means your permit would not go against the cap rate because it can also be commercial. So that's one way around it. So for example, on the bigger picture, the kind of, not the darkest purple, but the middle kind of purple, those are all zoned for T4N. And if you buy one of those properties, again, even if it's capped, you can actually use this for residential or commercial space. So people who know this, you'll see them kind of give a higher price tag on those lots or those homes because they know that they're, sitting on some gold there. On top of that, if you have what we call like a frog, a finished room over the garage, or you have an accessory dwelling unit in addition to your main home, that actually doesn't go against the cap either. So it's a great way for you to make some extra income, but why it's so important to work with someone that understands this market, understands, local regulation, and zoning, and how you can, tap into that.
There's been a lot of talk, especially going into like the Charleston and Savannah markets, of municipalities putting like moratoriums on renting and short-term rentals. And so it's not just in our hyper local market. I'm sure it's across the nation, that it's these little tiny pockets that people just assume. They call and they say, we want to make a short-term rental, and you have to know, can it actually be a short-term rental?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I'm trying to think. I think Beaufort personally does a really good job with the 6% cap. But I know other cities like Atlanta and Denver. I could be wrong on this, but it was like you can only now like rent out your primary residence. Like you had all these people that were doing, had 10 Airbnbs, and they're putting, much stricter regulations on it. I think it's all about finding that sweet, middle ground. Because a lot of people, they're like, I don't want all these cars coming in, changing out every single week. But from my experience with it, like usually a decent Airbnb or short-term rental host is actually keeping that property in better condition. You're able to get in there and see it. If anything, I think it's bringing more, dollars to the area as well. So
This might be kind of a silly, like ambiguous question, but you're talking about, let's say you're working with a client looking for this particular type of investment property, and we are hearing about it all the time, right? There's talks of this happening in this municipality. Maybe this is going to happen. Eli, do you have kind of a blanketed script that, number one, you use to just help set expectations that like what you're looking at doing by the time you complete the process and go do something could have changed on the governmental level? And then do we kind of know, like, is there a general rule of thumb for like how much time it takes? Like, let's say I buy something in Pinehurst and Pinehurst is talking about making changes. Like how does that conversation, I guess, look like with clients, just letting them know that like changes could be coming? They're not here now, they could be coming. Like, do you run into that often, having those conversations?
I'd say not too much, but honestly, I think I'm gonna compare it to like, a realtor trying to take on all the lending questions, when I think like we shouldn't be doing all that. Yes, we can help guide and be a part of the process and navigate them, but go ahead and start getting them involved with, for example, Justin Rose at the city. Like go ahead and connect them, right? And so they can start asking those questions, or we can ask them together instead of trying to play telephone here. So I guess I compare it to like, I can't answer all lending questions, but I'm gonna ask them alongside you and kind of bring you along for the journey. Because the last thing I want is, us to get to the process and then, oh, it's capped. We're not accepting any more short-term rental permits like at all. So I think it's just being transparent and communicating throughout the process. And what I'll say is here in Beaufort, by the time that you close on the home, I think, you could have your short-term rental permit in just a few weeks. I mean, there's this step-by-step guide that, again, I think Beaufort does a pretty good job on it. Could there be improvements? For sure. But they recognize it as something that's very important in the community for, small businesses, where you have to then meet with the local, oh my goodness, my brain is fried a little bit. What's his name? Bruce? Allison?
Yeah, you have to do your safety,
safety inspection and stuff. So again, I think it's one of those things where there's several steps throughout the process. It's not like you do it all one and done and you just go write a check with the city. There's, at least I think I put it better for my clients, because this area I think is so heavily dependent on it, and they know that it's important. Like families are coming in every single week from around the country. And yeah, and again, just being transparent and kind of getting them involved in the process early on, so then there's nothing that kind of creeps up and surprises them.
I have a closing today that was a short-term rental in the Mossy Oaks area, and it's been a lot of work, right? Because we're closing in the middle of turnover. The home was being sold fully furnished, so that was really great. So it was nice that we were buying the short-term rental. But what has to happen today, that when the docs are signed, is the seller has to go to the city and give her release documents at the same time that the buyer goes to the city and gives his permitting documents. It's been 3 weeks of preparation, right? Everybody knows everything that's going on. All the documents are ready. And the day of closing, we're going to do a seamless turnover, because if that area was capped, then we're just assuming we're buying this rental that is just going to stay a rental, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that everything lines up.
And that's why, I kind of, also, there's no waiting list in Beaufort for each of these neighborhoods. And it's because of that reason exactly, which makes sense, right? If you're buying this as a short-term rental permit, the person selling the property has to sign the release, as you said, and that person has to turn it in immediately. Technically, if a person was stalking him and then tried to turn it in before, I mean, they could get that permit before the new buyer.
It's
Yeah,
been it's a lot of legwork, but
It
you
is.
can't assume. You cannot assume that you're buying the short-term rental and it's going to stay a short-term rental. You know what I mean? So that's very good
100%.
advice.
Yep. So purchasing the property. So how do you plan to purchase the rental? Are you doing a loan? Is this an investment property? Are you having to put down 20%? I had a client actually do, let's see if I get this acronym right, the DSCR loan, where you put down 20%, but then as long as it's showing the income that's needed, to be made from the property, then this loan, would get approved.
Eli, have you done one of those?
Yes, I've done one of them.
Did you, and it's a commercial appraiser, correct? That does the appraisal. It's
Yes.
not a traditional residential appraisal.
That is correct.
How
So-
does that look? Can you talk about like just the differences between those as far as like what you saw on yours? I'm just really curious.
Yeah, so it was definitely a lot more strict, right? They need to see numbers, they need to see proof. The type of inspections that they're doing are a little bit more stringent and different, like they would be for a commercial property. So there's just a lot more quote unquote like hoops you have to jump through the lender. I've heard people say that they can do it in 30 days, but to be honest with you, I feel like it's more like 45 to 60. That I saw with the one that we worked on, and we kept having to push it back because they just required more information. They needed more proof. So again, if you're wanting to do something like this, like again, why it's so important to be working with someone that understands the market, can run those numbers for you in regards to possible revenue, and then working with the lender to get their approval. I mean, of course, the lender wants to get you across the finish line as well, so they're going to work with you. But it definitely is a more strict process, I would say. Cool. Another one, I mean, obviously cash, that one's pretty straightforward. But another one is hard money loans. I feel like we're starting to see, especially with interest rates that are higher, people are sitting on cash and they possibly want to lend out, money, or maybe they are, the home that they're selling is, paid off or has a decent amount of equity in it. So, if you see some of these investment properties, open up the conversation around seller financing and see if you can get, creative with it, because there's going to maybe be a lot less hoops or red tape to get through. And, it could be advantageous for you as well. So don't discount, the hard money loan or owner financing piece of it as well. So extra items I just want to touch on for a second is, what name will the property be under? So you can keep it under, your personal name. It can be a sole proprietorship, or you could create an LLC. Again, not an expert on this, but I have LLCs for my homes. There's a lot of tax benefits to it. Obviously, liability protection. It gives you some credibility. If you're wanting to raise funds for it as well, you have a lot more flexibility, or it's easier to do that. And also just managing it as well. So I highly recommend setting up an LLC. And I mean, it's so easy. You can do it yourself. If you just go to, the South, for example, in South Carolina, you can set it up. Then you get your, tax identification number. And then you can set up a bank account. And I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Or if you don't want to do all of that, just contact your attorney, and they can set it up for you pretty quickly as well. And then money management. So from the beginning, and I'll even say I wasn't great about this in the beginning, is just make sure you're tracking every dollar that's spent on it. So then whenever you go and talk to your CPA, or you have a bookkeeper, that you're just keeping a good, accurate list of your transactions so you can track your business. The gold standard is QuickBooks. You can set that up. I actually use Rentastic, which is, I think it's like $100 a year, but I can connect it to my bank accounts. I connect it to my business credit cards, and then I can go in there and categorize the transactions, split them up as needed. That's a huge one. If you don't want to do that, always you can set up a business credit card and just, track your year-to-date spend and, yeah, kind of track it that way as well. Actually, Allison, curious, what do you use anything or?
Oh, I just wrote down Rentastic. So no, I I was really bad at this as well in the beginning. And so we like to use Amex because of our Amex points, you know what I mean? And so we've got Amex personal, and then we've got Amex for my business, and then Tony has Amex for his business. So it's always just been so connected, and it's terrible at the end because you really don't have a good read on your profit and loss on these units. And it's like you said in the beginning, the first beach house we bought, it was like, well, I just want it to pay for itself and we can get a free beach house that we can go and hang out at. Well, now we're making money. These are businesses. I have 3 of them, and they're doing great. And what I do is I try to, at the end of every quarter, make sure that everything has been put on that one credit card. And that's just for that business, for that LLC. And then at the end of the quarter, things get messed up. Like my Amazon account is the number one that happens, right? Because you're on Amazon and you're buying stuff for the house, and then you forget that you didn't change the credit card number or whatnot. So you do have to audit, and you do have to make sure that you're running it like a business, because things can get in the weeds and you can feel really bloated really quickly. It can be like, oh my God, I made $3,800 this month. Well, you bought a $3,000 new couch, so you didn't really make $3,800 this month, So
Yeah, because I'll say, QuickBooks, I think is something I need to move towards now. But, Rentastic has been awesome as far as just like a Band-Aid to kind of help get me there as well. And it's kind of cool once you start seeing it, you're like, I'm a real business. It's pretty cool. Awesome. All right. Well, last but not least, this is my Airbnb profile. So if you want to check out my homes or you want to possibly come stay in Beaufort, please, would love to have you, and we could talk a little bit more about it in person. This is my email address if you have any questions about it as well. And then here is my Airbnb host referral link. Side note, you can make $720 per referral. So this is a great little tool to have as well. So that is it. Are there any questions?
So you have affiliate links for your Airbnbs?
Well, for host referral. So
like if I post that and someone books through that link, what happens?
Or no, if they become a host.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So
should we invent affiliate links for your friends to promote your Airbnbs? I think we should.
I think you're ideating.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, I won't have to own an Airbnb. I can just affiliate link all my friends.
I think my big question would be like, when did you was there a lot of fear around buying your first Airbnb? And like, what made you think I should do this? Because I look at it and I think that it's I believe wholeheartedly that real estate is an amazing vessel for wealth growth, right? And so I look at it and I say, yeah, like, can you make the numbers work? Can it just pay for itself at the minimum? Do it. Buy the Airbnb. How much is your time investment in all of those things? So like, what made you do it the first time?
Yeah, I think it was where I saw that, real estate's always been a passion of mine, and I wanted to, own real estate. And then when this short-term rental market became available, it's always been around, but I feel like Airbnb kind of blew it up. I kind of saw as a great opportunity for, honestly, me to start something with my family. I kind of wanted to create something that we could create wealth within my immediate family. And then also, again, I had a leg up because my parents were talking about all these military graduations that they go on base and they help with. And I was just like, man, this feels like a no-brainer if someone's not wanting to stay at hotels and there aren't that many short-term rentals and you have a family of 6 wanting to come in and they don't want to get 2 or 3 hotel rooms. The most cost-effective way is to do it this way. The other smart thing I think is like, and I know you do this, Allison, as well, is, we'll do the short-term rental regular bookings and stuff, but we have a leg up as realtors because we have people that are coming in and they're maybe building homes or they need something for 30 to 90 days or something like that. So we're just so tapped into that world where we can charge $4,000 a month for a furnished, all utilities included, for a home. So, I mean, to me, it was just kind of like a no-brainer that, again, we had such a huge leg up. And you can set it up in so many different ways, and not just a short-term rental, but a midterm rental, which would be considered 31 or more days as well. So
Yeah, midterm rentals, I think, are a big thing. It allows, one of the houses I was getting $1,900 a month in rent for a normal rental on it. We furnished it. Our intentions were to make it a short term. It ended up just naturally turning into a midterm because of the need for it. And now we're getting $3,800 a month. And so way bigger margins, way less headache for me personally than a short-term day-to-day rental. I definitely think that there is opportunity. There's opportunity there.
And I mean, it's funny because I think are Jake and Angel still on the call by chance? Oh, yep, I see y'all. So, they used to own Top Clean and they sold their business, but I just helped one of my friends buy a property here and start up a short-term rental and set up everything. But now, we have Top Clean that we're working with, and they're there for extra fee, but they're providing all the linens, they're providing all the like dish detergent and toilet paper and everything. So it's just kind of taking that off of the homeowner and making it, great. So then again, because as Allison said, if you are turning over every few days and stuff, like it can be a lot. I think people are like, oh, I just want mailbox money, I want it to be passive. I mean, if you want good ratings and you want to be successful at this, it's definitely not passive. You have to be active, but how can you leverage maybe cleaners, or maybe you don't want a full property management company to be taking 20%, but maybe you have someone that kind of just generally manages like communication or something like that. I mean, I know for all of mine, I have the access code automatically gets created. The cleaner gets notified. I have automated messages come through on Airbnb. So I literally do not send one message on Airbnb until the very end, which basically when it says, do you want to leave Nancy a review? I am probably the quickest person in the world to leave a review, because as long as my cleaner says it's good, I hop in there. I have an automated message that I do for all reviews. And then as soon as I do the review and say I left them 5 stars, I have an automated message that goes out to them like, hey, thank you for staying with us. I just left you a 5-star review. Thank you for being a great guest. Like, we hope to have you back. So then, I'm kind of guilt tripping a little bit for them to leave a 5-star review as well. Because I think a lot of times they're like, okay, I mean, I think we did a good job. Is there anything that we're kind of questioning? I don't want them to question it at all. Like, get ahead of it.
That's great advice. Cool. Does anybody else have any questions so that Eli can go back to bed because he has the flu?
Yeah, I have a question. It's kind of just like backtrack. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, Eli. So with a client that wants to invest in a property like that's already being ran as a short-term rental and they're selling it fully furnished, kind of for myself to give them the due diligence, like go do your due diligence. Who should I refer them to like immediately to be like, here, this is who you need to talk to kind of continue the short-term rental stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where you would leverage like Blake or someone on your team to kind of do it together and say like, kind of bring them into the conversation and see if they can help. Or like, honestly, Carlos, like reach out to me and just be like, hey, like this is my first time, doing possibly a short-term rental for a client. I just want to get your thoughts and expertise. Do you think this property could be good? Is there anything that I'm not thinking about? Like, let's just like collaborate on it together.
Carlos, I would say step 1 is if it's in the city limits,
yes.
I would just Google City of Beaufort and find the municipality that talks about like these regulations. So Justin Rose in Beaufort is our contact for the city. If it's in the county, then you need to go to Beaufort County. And if it's in Port Royal, then you need to call Port Royal. So again, everyone's different depending on where you are on this Zoom, but for Beaufort County, you need to remember that there's a difference between the city, the county, and Port Royal because they're different municipalities. And so you can call Justin Rose and he will look up a property immediately and say, nope, that's capped. Yep, you're good to go. there was a house on Depot a few months ago and everyone was trying to buy this house. They all were going to make it an Airbnb. And I called Justin. I said, hey, Justin, 111 Depot Road. And he's like, nope, it's capped, cannot be an Airbnb. My client didn't want it. They didn't want anything to do with it because the only reason they were buying was for that. But then Eli had listings one street over on Rebo, and they were zoned T4 NC or something, and those did not contribute to the cap. So even though that area was capped, the zoning allowed for that to be a short-term rental. So you just have to, there's no, my sister asked for like a reference guide on this, and it's like, there is no reference guide. You have to just get creative. You have to call the people, you have to ask the questions, and you have to be quick. And if you throw this back to your client's going to be overwhelmed and they're not going to want to touch it. So it's like, get on the phone, make the calls, do the digging, and you can get answers pretty quick. And once you do it once or twice, it's like easy breezy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah, and I'll even share this for 2 seconds. So I just put in the chat. So, for the city of Beaufort, just come in here. You can see, email the business license to Allison's point. You just put in the address that you're looking for. And then Justin or Kelsey will get back to you. But again, it talks about the 6% cap here as this step-by-step process. Now, one thing is like this neighborhood map. Let's see, is this the one I want? Because I want to.
Mallory, is Kelsey related to you?
Yeah, actually, I just texted her a few minutes ago and I said, you might be seeing Allison Greco today for a license transfer. Yeah, that's my sister.
Oh my gosh, I just put it together. I was like, this is a bizarre last name. How are there two of these people? Oh my gosh.
I
Awesome.
know, yeah. That's my eldest sister. So yeah, she works in the licensing department. So yeah, you'll be seeing her for sure.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome.
That's awesome. Now we know we have some pull there. So
I don't know how much I have. She doesn't like me that much. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, just to see here, you can see the different neighborhoods and how there's a 6% cap on each one. But if you go to Beaufort zoning, just to kind of reiterate this point one more time. Let me zoom in here. So you can see T4N is kind of this darker purple, which you can see along here, a lot where the red line is. These don't go against the cap. So for example, the Home Zone Rebo that Allison was talking about, all of these are T4N. So again, they don't go against the cap, while everything on Depot is considered, I think, T3N, which is residential. So as soon as a property, downtown hits the market, the first thing I'm doing, honestly, is going to this map. If I know I have a short-term rental client that wants to buy one, I'm going here and seeing the address and where does it fall in this dark purple here. And then if, it looks good, then I know it's T4N, but I will still email Justin or Kelsey and just to double or triple check because again, you don't want to assume anything with this.
Awesome.
That's something actually I've run into working with long-term rentals, is owners purchasing properties and assuming that it is a short-term rental zone, and then they realize that they can't do it and they're pretty much forced to put it in a long-term rental. So I'm with Eli as well. Make sure you're checking that out, and your clients are as well, because it can become a sticky situation.
Yeah.
Shout out for Mallory. She works for Beaufort Rentals. So if anyone needs.
And thanks for that referral. I just saw it a few moments ago.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
All right, guys, cool. Does anybody else have anything? Well, as always, Anna and I so appreciate you all coming. Eli, thank you so much for getting out of bed and powering through this one for us. And Eli's information was in there. We'll make sure that we do a follow-up. We'll update this and upload this to YouTube as usual, and to our website. And we are always here if you need anything.
Next week we have one of Ashley Bomarito's teammates, Corey Chandler's, coming to join us to talk about. I'm sorry, am I wrong? Isn't Miranda next week? Did I get off?
It's Miranda next week. Miranda Proha is the transaction coordinator for the Greco group, and she is doing transaction coordination 101. It's really all about the systems and the tools that she uses to manage like 250 transactions a year. So I'm always so interested to understand how their brains work and how they do it, because I can't do that. And then the following week, I believe that's when we have
Fire. buyer consultations, which, when we set that up, I just was like, oh, that's so great. Like, I love seeing him in the office with buyers because we have a hard time getting buyers into our office for consultations. But with everything coming down the line in July, you better get good at it. So that was a timely ad. So, and next week, feel free, guys, if you have TCs or you're looking at how am I going to set up my TCs, like, don't bring your people next week, bring your people. You don't have to regurgitate, bring it back, just get your people on the Zoom. It's the same link every week. So we'll see you next Wednesday.
And next Thursday for Access, we're working on potentially like an NAR panel. So we want to kind of talk about what is the scripting we can use. We just got back from a conference in California with producers that did over 15 million, a lot of team leaders. And there are only, Charity let us know, there's only 15 states with buyer agency right now. So there's a lot of people not doing this already. And so we were going through the conversations and solutions. And one of the things is going to be EXP office exclusives. So I know Anna's doing a presentation on that this Thursday, but next Thursday we'll have 2 speakers and we'll be streaming that. So hopefully we can maybe stream it in the Access group. So I think it'll be good.
Yeah,
Very
I'll
good.
try to live stream here too. I do think tomorrow, if you're in our brokerage, even if you're not, just getting in and understanding what the exclusives is going to do for our industry going forward, and being with a brokerage that's 80,000 agents strong is huge. So if this all sounds like, what are y'all talking about? How do I get to all these things? Just send us a message. We'll make sure that we can get you plugged into all these trainings. There's a new agent panel tomorrow, I think, too, up here in Raleigh that I think has Zoom tickets as well. So just make sure you're getting the things. This is I think the most important part of what we can do going forward is just making sure we're collaborating and connecting. So if you're listening to these things and thinking, oh, how do I get on them? Just message us. We'll help you get there. We'll help you figure out how to get onto there, whether you're in person or on the computer. So don't feel like you need to do this alone.
Very good, guys. Thanks so much. Always reach out if you need us.
Thanks, friends. Happy Wednesday.